All right, so we are in Genesis 1:4, fourth video, fourth day. Like I said yesterday, we are going to go a little faster eventually, but there's so much here because this is the origin. This is the Genesis. Verse 3, which we looked at yesterday, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Verse 4, God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. And God called the light, verse 5, day, and darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning, the first day. Now, here we come into the part that so many people get hung up on and wonder about. Does he mean 24-hour days? Does he mean that everything that we see around us was formed in a process of 6 literal 24-hour days? And you know what? I'm not going to go into all the details of what my own thoughts are. They're not really going to matter. But I will say this. I don't think that's what the author is focusing on or trying to get across. And part of the reason is because if you take that logic through, I mean, obviously you have some conflicts with what we understand of science, but even from the scriptures. Because the scriptures don't seem to focus on that. In fact, if you read it as a literal description, you're going to run into trouble. For example, the sun then is not going to be described as being created until day 3. So how would you have day and night, or how would you measure day and night without the rotation of the earth in relationship to the sun? And then again, all this occurs in 6 days, including the creation of mankind, man and female. But in chapter 2, you have this more detailed story of God creating the man and then bringing all the animals to him to be named, which is an act more of ownership than anything else, just showing his authority and his own sub-creative ability. And then at the end of that process, God brings the woman. So Genesis 6 says that all occurred in 1 day. In Genesis chapter 2 describes a process. It doesn't say how long it took, but it would strain credulity to think that happened in 24 hours or the half of the 24 hours that is day. So again, I won't get hung up on this. What I think is happening is God, through this, is giving this narrative structure by using this symbol of the week. And so he's using this and the days to show this progression. And by the way, I don't think I'll have time to get into it now, but there's a very close parallel between the creation in Genesis chapter 1 of the world and how it's formed and filled, and then the creation of the tabernacle and later on the temple in the Old Testament. And you'll see that number 7 come up again and again in that process. And you'll see so many ideas. Again, I don't have time to get into them all, but the idea of that association, I think the heart of it is this, that just as the temple and the tabernacle were created primarily to have for 2 purposes, so creation also had those 2 purposes writ large, as it were. So why was the tabernacle created? Well, in the first place, it was created to be a place where God could dwell with mankind. And so the tabernacle was a way that God could dwell in a tent when his people were in tents. And then later on, when the people were in houses, the people of Israel, God allowed the tabernacle to be replaced by the house of the temple. So one of the things that happens there is that you get the idea God's always longed to be with his people. And that's what the tabernacle and the temple were for. And of course, the second thing was this was also a way for us to understand the glory and the beauty of God, to be near his holiness and his beauty without being consumed by them. And so he had all these symbols of the tabernacle and the temple, and none of them without purpose, all of them to show the glory of God, but also allowing, especially through the sacrifices, for us to come closer to him by degree. So those 2 ideas, allowing God and man to dwell together, but also showing the glory and the wonder of God, are at the heart of the tabernacle and temple, and I think they're also at the heart here in Genesis chapter 1 of why God has created everything. It ties into this then. We're seeing a glimpse already of God's purpose. His purpose is not to add something to his own glory. You can't add to his glory, but rather to create partners with which he can share this circle of love, this circle of Trinitarian love, in a way that allows him to understand who he is, even though he does not have a body like we do. And so we see this God and are able to dwell with this God because of what God has done. All right, I'm getting off a little bit of a tangent there. We are in chapter 4, and we talked about the evening and the morning and the first day. And I think this is why God structures this creation narrative in this way, to associate with the tabernacle and the temple. But we're going to have to come back tomorrow or the next video, and we'll see what it means when God says he saw that the light was good. All right, till then, thanks.